Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna be doing my most requested look for this month. Now, I don't have these every month because sometimes I don't get many comments on my looks, and that's okay. But this particular month, on my video where I was talking about my August favorites, I had quite a few people ask to see this look. So I took everything from that description box that I used on my face and used it today for this look. So if you want to see how I got this and all the products that I used, let's go ahead and get started. So the corrector that I used for this look was the Chantecaille Camouflage Stilo Corrector Pen. I ran out of that one. I have one in backup, but I'm trying to get through some of my other correctors before I open it. So today I'm gonna use my Fit Glow Beauty corrector in Peach, which is the one I have been reaching for the past week since I ran out of the Chantecaille. And it just reminded me how much I absolutely adore this corrector. Wears so well, works so well. You're gonna be able to see how just that tiny little amount does wonders in correcting this major darkness that I have under my eyes. Now, while I'm blending this out, you're not too busy appreciating my self-tan gone wrong in between my fingers, then I'm gonna let you know that probably my second most asked question on my channel, if not my first, depending on the season I'm in, is what I prep my eyes with. And it is always the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the shade Honey. So this is what I have on every single time I get on camera before I do a look. This, I set it down with powder and I'm ready to go. So I just wanted to kind of say that on here because I do get asked that so very much. And in that favorites video, as well as today, I have on the ISDIN SPF. So that is all I have on my skin. I also get asked all the time. Sometimes I get asked what I have on my skin. Sorry, I'm redoing my hair, obviously. And sometimes I get accused of already having makeup on, but I don't. This is my skin with skincare and SPF. Now, the foundation is one that, was this in my last favorites or the favorites before? It's a very, very, very high favorite. It's the Lancome Teint Idole Stick Foundation. And this is the shade 330 Bisque Neutral. I also have 260 Neutral, which is this right here, for the winter months, but I'm really trying to get through this. This is all I have left of the 330. I take a big, this is a Morphe M439, just a big, kind of dense foundation brush. And I have been liking to pick up the product from the actual component versus striping it on the skin and then buffing it out. It just seems to work better for me. And so then I just stipple it into the skin. If you have any interest in this foundation, I highly recommend searching my channel for videos that I've done on it. Well, the hair's just not gonna stay up. I got a fresh trim last week. Whenever that happens, it just does not fully stay up. But I would search my channel because I definitely go into more depth in other videos. But this, like I had said just a second ago, is definitely in my top 5, if not my top 3 favorite foundations of all time. Hence the reason I am almost out of it. I have a lot of travel coming up this fall. Well, some travel that requires makeup, some doesn't. We're going to Disney in less than 2 weeks. I'm not taking makeup to that. I am not wearing makeup at Disney. To me, there's no point. But my youngest daughter is in competition dance, so we have a lot of competitions that we're going to be going to. When I travel, this is my go-to. It's just so easy, and it's just absolutely beautiful on the skin. It is not overly matte, as I think you can tell. Nothing. There's nothing that I don't like about this foundation. Now, for concealer, I used my Chantecaille foundation. This is the Future Skin Gel Foundation in the shade Vanilla. And this has been just a favorite product for concealer lately. Just pick a little bit up on my ring finger and then tap it under my eye like this. And then I'll go in with that same brush that I put the corrector on with, which is the Sephora number 47, and kind of just blend out the edges It's so hydrating and blendable that it almost just kind of melts into the skin when I pat it in with my fingers, but this just helps kind of meld it into the foundation on the cheeks if it got that far down, and just make sure there's no harsh lines. So let's let all of that sink in and go on to our eyes. I used one of my favorite palettes of all time. If you can tell by the looks of it, this is my Viseart Neutral Mattes palette. I did an entire video. It was a live with Abby Bliss White. I will put a card up using this palette because she had gotten it and was a little overwhelmed with how to use it because she really prefers like quads and quints so that she doesn't have so much to choose from. So I went over all the different ways that you can use this, but it is a longtime favorite of mine. And I have a much nicer one in my kit that I use all the time. But I'm going to take my Refer 15 and this shade up here, which you can tell is my favorite, and use that to create a crease. It's just a beautiful, warm, peachy brown shade. There are lots of reasons why I love this palette, but one of which is the formula is very buildable, which I feel like makes a palette much more versatile because you can choose how deep you want those colors to come off on the eyes. I'm going to use my favorite cream shadow at the moment. This is one that I use probably 75% of the time with my eye makeup looks, and this is from Beauty Counter, and it is the shade Aura, and it is just a very pretty champagne-y gold. I get asked a lot what the purpose of a cream shadow like this is. If I'm just going to cover it up with another shade, which I am in this case, and often do, probably 99% of the time, I'll cover it up. To me, it gives the lid shade something else to kind of adhere to, something a little bit tacky. And it also, depending on what shade you're putting on, will help make that color pop if you have a similar shade underneath in a cream formula. So if you feel like you're not getting the pigment that you want out of a lid shade, or you just want it to be a little bit more vibrant, then I would definitely suggest doing something like this. Now the lid shade that I used in that video is actually from Sephora. It is one of their single shadows, and this is in the shade Milky Way. Now every time I go to link this, I notice that they are on sale, so I don't know if they're discontinuing this line or not, but I would definitely recommend going in store and seeing if maybe they're in the clearance. This came broken, which is why it doesn't look the prettiest in the pan, because I had to kind of press everything back in. But it is a gorgeous goldish copper metallic shade. Now I'm going to start with a brush. However, that is not how you get the best amount of pigment, but I am going to just put a little fine layer on top, and then I'm going to take my finger, which I feel like is definitely the best way. Do you see how much pigment versus the brush applies? I just feel like when you put that first layer, it helps for some reason. I don't know why. It may just be in my head, but that's the way I like to do it. So you can see, using your finger to apply versus the brush, it definitely makes a huge difference. And that really goes with any kind of shimmery shadow, especially when you're applying it to the lid. It tends to always have a little bit more oomph if you use your finger versus a brush. I'm going to go back into this palette and pick up the orange shade right here. And this is a Persona Cosmetics eyeshadow brush. And I'm just going to stamp just a little bit of that on this very outer corner. It's really just a deeper shade of that original peach that we put in the crease, but it tends to round everything out. And then to finish off the eye look, I'm going to go into the darkest brown right here in the middle with my Refer 29 and use that as an eyeliner to define the lash line. I set my under eyes off camera, but I used my Ilia Fade Into You Soft Focus Finishing Powder. And to set my face for that look, I used my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural, and this is in the shade Medium Dark. I can also wear Medium Plus, but this is just the shade that I reached for that day. And I'm just taking my La Mer powder brush and pressing that into the skin over that Lancome foundation. This was actually one of my favorites that I talked about in that video, and it is the Sicily Phyto Touche Sun Glow Bronzing Gel Powder, which I absolutely love. If you can tell by the amount of use that this pan has gotten. I use the BH Cosmetics No. 4 brush. Now, this came in a set. I don't think you can get it anymore, but to me, the main thing that you want to look for in a brush for this bronzer and any kind of gel or baked gelée type formula, which this is something that has a little bit more density to it. I would not be able to pick up near as much if I took in one of my fluffy powder brushes and tried to use this product. It's just the product would not adhere to the brush as well as it does if it has a little bit more density to it. So this is not so dense that it doesn't move, but it's also not what I would call fluffy. And this is not the only bronzer that I like this brush with. I have been using it quite a lot lately. I just like how it kind of fits onto all the curves. And honestly, it's just a blush brush. So, you know, if you have like a dense blush brush, you could definitely try that. Bronzer is just one of my favorites lately. I had a comment on that video about how expensive it is and they don't see how anybody would pay that much for a bronzer. I did mention in that video to watch out for sales. I personally got it for 30% off. I realize it's expensive. It's Sicily, but it was a favorite, so I was going to talk about it. And again, Black Friday's coming up, so maybe put this on the list of things to look for, because while I do really, really love it, I am also very, very glad that I got it for 30% off. Pulled out an oldie but a goodie for highlight this day, and this is my Jane Iredale. I don't know, they call this a bronzer. To me, this is just not a bronzer. Maybe on this side for like the very, 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 very fairest of skin tones, but I like using these two lighter shades for a highlight. Did I say what color it was? It's Moon Glow. These are also great eyeshadows, but I don't think I have to say that. I mean, it's Jane Iredale. I'm going to use it and I'm going to love it. And for blush, I used one of my favorites from Chantecaille. This is the cheek shade in Grace, which is the sea turtle. And you can see a little bit of the sea turtle left, but I do use this quite often, so it's not going to be long before that's completely gone. But I love this for a peachy blush, and because I went a little bit warmer on the eyes, I wanted to go a little bit warmer on the cheeks. And I get asked a lot about how I determine what blush color I'm going to use for what look, and I really try to at least match the undertones of my blush, shadow, and lipstick. So if I'm wearing warmer peaches, coppers, golds, that kind of thing like I am wearing today, I like to find some kind of peach or orange undertone blush to go with it, and either a more neutral or peach leaning lipstick to go with it. For instance, I probably would not wear a baby bubblegum pink with this look for a lipstick. There are no rules, right or wrong, for what shades you choose for makeup. It is certainly what you want to do, but if you are concerned about them somewhat matching, then I would just suggest staying in the same undertone. My Hourglass Radiant Light, which is always my last step to buff out any harsh lines. I do not, unless I have gone way overboard on my bronzer, I do not do this on the forehead because this has a slight sheen to it. I don't want my forehead, like right now my forehead's still a little shiny. I don't want to say shiny, but it has a little bit of a sheen to it. I don't want any more than what it has right now. I'm just not a fan of that look on me personally, so I tend to not buff on my forehead. To finish off the eyes, I'm going to mix that orange shade and the peach shade. I don't want it to be too orangey, but the peach would not be enough for what I'm looking for to buff under the eyes. Definitely not a step you have to do. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with shadow under their eyes like this. For me, unless I'm doing like a no makeup look, or I'm just not wearing eyeshadow at all, I prefer to have this step as part of my routine. And then I don't remember if I did this that day, but I'm going to go back into Moon Glow and take a little bit of the very lightest shade for my inner corner and brow bone Sometimes I remember to do this and sometimes I don't. So whether I did in that video or not, it is a step I do like to do if I remember it. And sometimes I take whatever I used on the lid, but this Milky Way shade from Sephora would be way too much for this step. So in that case, you can just reach for whatever highlighter you used and it should be good to go. I'm going to do mascara off camera to save time and repetitiveness, but I'm gonna be using my Chantecaille. So I will be right back to finish off with lips. All right, to finish off lips, very easy. I just use one of my beloved Fit Glow Beauty lip serums. This is in the shade Nice, and it is nice. See what I mean? Like if you look at this, it has almost like a warm orangey undertone. So that's why I chose this, because I knew the rest of my makeup was going in that direction too. And it would just bring everything together. But I also love it because it is not so opaque that I feel uncomfortable wearing this tone on my lips. I typically do go more for the pink tones, but these lip serums are fabulous because you will be able to wear colors that you would not think that you would ever want to wear. And they will be flattering because they are not 100% opaque. They're moisturizing. They give that glossy feel and look, and they are just fabulous. I have so many colors. If you're wondering, B is my favorite color because it is that pinky nude shade, but I have really been liking this again for when I choose warmer looks. Now I'm not going to do any kind of fragrance of the day. I actually have a couple that are being delivered today, so I wanted to kind of wait for that, but early this morning, I sprayed on a sample that I have of Van Cleef & Arpels Bois Doré or Doré. I love it. It's like an almondy vanilla scent. However, it is fleeting. When I say fleeting, I mean like I smell it for about 10 minutes and then I really have to stick my nose on my skin to smell it. So I'm going to keep playing with that and see if there's ways I can make it last longer. The scent is fabulous. The longevity on me is not. So that's it. That is the completed look. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, everything will be listed and linked in the description box. Be sure and like and subscribe before you leave so you don't miss out on any future videos. And I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day.